I will try my best to tiptoe around some of the phraseology that I have to use here. But we're talking about the allegations associated with this hip hop mogul billionaire, Sean Diddy Combs. And, you know, you think about the name and how long he's been rich and powerful and famous and such a huge part of um, hip hop culture and pop culture. And what we're talking about now, it's quite shocking. It really is. I mean, people are talking about him in the same breath as like Jeffrey Epstein at this point, based upon allegations that he denies and that have not been proven. But now we know that his homes were raided. This is part of a federal sex trafficking investigation, and it wasn't, you know, a couple of guys showing up, hey, can we see your phone? No, I mean, large numbers of people, a show of force, military-style vehicles, ripping
Thanks for
through
tuning in.
everything in a
So
city
far it
right
says five
next to
lawsuits
Miami
filed
Star Island. Now, TMZ obtained
against
images of
Diddy
the aftermath of the raid
November
at
the
Diddy's Hilton
23rd,
mansion, and
I mean November
um,
2023 to
you can say they tore the
2024.
place apart. They tore it apart. I mean, they're looking anywhere and everywhere, and it seems like they're very focused on electronic devices, and then anywhere where a hard drive or a thumb drive could be found.
This is really crazy.
This is a real search. And they seize things. There
Look,
they are, going in, taking the servers and the hard drives.
why
And
would
this comes
somebody
out.
even have something like
This comes
all
out
of
of
that
nowhere.
in their
Like, this isn't
house?
like, oh, let's throw
Unless
some
they the
a
damn
lawsuit
police, they
out there.
damn self.
You know, let's just, you know, kind of cover our bases here because
No
this is
regular
what's coming.
person, I
This is
don't
a
give a
serious
darn. You
investigation.
don't, mm-mm.
Absolutely serious. When I asked R. Kelly's lawyer last night how serious he thinks this is, 0 to 10, he said 12. Steve Greenberg said 12. Now, we know very little about the federal investigation except that it comes on the heels of a couple of civil complaints that were filed against Diddy. The first one by Cassandra Ventura, Cassie, someone who spent 11 years, I guess, on and off with
Thanks
Diddy.
for tuning in.
They were a thing. They were a couple. There they are. Now, in she filed this suit. The next day, things were settled, and we don't know the details of the settlement, but we do know the details of the
Please like,
complaint.
share, and subscribe. Put some
Are
hearts
you
in the
ready? I
chat.
warned you already. I'm going to try to dance around some of the language if I have to here, but here in the complaint, she describes these things called freak-offs, okay? The first time Mr. Combs hired a man and brought the man to his home in Los Angeles, the man, Mr. Combs, and Ms. Ventura wore masquerade masks and ingested drugs. Mr. Combs directed Ms. Ventura to perform sexual acts with this man while Mr. Combs watched them. He pleasured himself while he directed Miss Ventura and the man to do specific acts. The entire encounter lasted multiple days. Mr. Combs began to call this arrangement a freak-off, or FO. Ms. Ventura was eventually instructed to use websites and escort services to find male sex workers to participate
Mm.
in these FOs. Mr. Combs told Ms. Ventura to search for um, large men, large black men on the website. Sometimes Mr. Combs would pay to fly the male sex workers to his location. Mr. Combs always supplied Ms. Ventura and the sex worker with copious amounts of drugs before, during the FOs. Ms. Ventura was given ecstasy, cocaine, GHB,
Mm.
cocaine, marijuana, and alcohol in excessive amounts during these FOs, which allowed her to disassociate during these horrific encounters.
Mm,
It
mm,
became
mm.
commonplace to get IV fluids in the days after an FO to recover from the excessive substances
Oh my
she acquired.
gosh. Mm.
During the FOs, in addition to directing Ms. Ventura and pleasuring himself, Mr. Combs would use his phone laptop and tablet to film Ms. Ventura having sex with the hired sex worker. He treated the forced encounter as a personal art project, adjusting the candles he used for lighting to frame the videos that he took. All right, that's a sample
Hmm.
of that complaint. She filed the complaint, settled the next day. She had been with him for 11 years. So, are they investigating this? I don't know. There's videos? I don't know. She's of age. He's of age.
Yes,
I do
P.
think it's
Diddler. This
sexual.
is
She's
crazy.
saying it's not,
I
but
never would
I don't know.
have
I think they're going to let
expected
this to
this
the New
of
York
Puffy.
Times.
Never.
Now, a subsequent lawsuit filed by Rodney Smith, known as Lil Rod, a man who worked for Diddy as a producer and perhaps did other things. And Lil Rod describes sex parties that had taken place. Diddy had sex workers and endless drugs flowing through the recording sessions at CRS, the recording studio, Mr. Combs' homes, and on the yacht. According to Mr.
Absolutely.
Jones,
And
Mr.
he's
Combs
one of them. He's
requested
more
these
than
guys
weird.
over
He's
to the
past
studio
weird.
and wanted sex workers there to create the vibe for the Love album. Then these workers arrived, and Mr. Jones and the other musicians and producers were required to engage in sex acts with them. In addition to sex workers, there were at least 5 women in the crowd who were under the age of 16. There you
Mm-mm.
go. Now, this could be what we're talking about in terms of a federal investigation. According to Mr. Jones, Mr.
Thanks for
Combs
tuning
forced all
in.
women to drink laced De Leon liquor. Upon information belief, Mr. Combs laced the liquor with ecstasy. He attempted to leave, and Mr. Combs forced him to stay. Mr. Jones. Okay. Now let's move one more step further, and I want to remind you what I said at the top, that some people are talking about a comparison here between billionaire Diddy and billionaire Jeffrey Epstein. Well, Jeffrey Epstein had his Ghislaine Maxwell, and we know that
But
she
she
took care
works
of
for
him,
Puffy too.
including his feet. I still can't believe this picture. It's bizarre. Like, it's one thing to do it, but then you're going to photograph. What is wrong with these people? Are they working too much time? What is it? That's Ghislaine Maxwell. She's in prison now because of her role in Epstein's little setup that he had. Actually, it's a big setup at his own island.
Mm.
And that black book that we'll never see.
Oh, we're going to see that damn book.
Little Rob describes someone named Christine Coram. And as I describe her, think about Ghislaine Maxwell. Coram required all employees, from the butler to the chef to the housekeeper,
No, I
to
haven't
walk
seen
away
those yet.
with a black Prada pouch or fanny pack filled with cocaine, ecstasy, and other drugs. Coram ordered sex workers for Mr. Combs. Coram also sent Mr. Jones to solicit sex workers for Mr. Combs. When the
This
sex
is
workers
wow.
arrived at Mr. Combs' residence, defendant Coram would negotiate their price and would take them aside and pay them. So she sort of is alleged to have kind of set everything up the way that Ghislaine was alleged to set things up
Wow.
with Jeffrey Epstein. Is this a fair comparison? Well, in
Yeah.
fact, there are some comparisons here, some slight differences, but they're both really rich, really powerful, and all of us are very shocked by what we're learning.
We are.
But I have some questions about all of this. Let me bring in my special guest. Joining me tonight in St. Louis, Missouri, licensed mental health and nationally certified clinician, Sharonda Brown. Sharonda, great to see you. Okay, let's start with the freak-offs. And, I mean, it became part of the basis for Cassie to sue. She's claiming this was not consensual. She's forced into this. They're in some sort of a relationship over the course of 11 years. Take us into the mindset of Cassie and why she would hang around that long,
Yeah.
and what this means about what's going on in this relationship, and the power and the dynamics in the relationship.
I think it's important to note that Kathy was 19 when she first met Mr. Combs, and he was well into his 30s. So let's pin that. She was definitely young. She was an aspiring singer. She wanted a record deal. So she was looking at that. That's what she was looking at. And he saw that as an opportunity to take advantage, which is what a lot of predators do. So what we would see, or the outsiders would see as a relationship, actually became this predatory relationship based on what she could get if she was to serve him. And I think that over time, that became the leverage. It was, do you want this record deal, or do you want me to make sure your life is easy or your life is good? And I think at some point, when you become a victim of sexual abuse, you start to think about all the things that you would lose if you did not engage. And not just you, but the people around you. And reading the case, she was definitely abused and she was held against her will a lot, as well as her friends. So there were a lot of allegations in that report that gave her reason to stick beside him. And it wasn't because she was in love.
Okay, now let's take a look at Diddy and these allegations. And again, he's denying all of this, is not admitting any guilt or any crime or anything like that. But if we, and it's a big if, right? Because nothing's been proven. They settled it. We'll never hear the details in a courtroom. But if he's engaging in this kind of conduct, how does he get to that point? Right?
Getting away with it. Getting away with it over and over, and having people who are approving it, applauding it, even people bigger than him. So when you read these reports, you see that he was not alone most of the time in engaging in these acts. And a lot of things happen with people in this field, and they have a lot of power and money, and people around them will be silent because they want to save their own lives. So once you start getting away with it, especially when you've been doing this for allegedly over 20 something years, you become invincible. At least you believe that you are. So this is how these things happen. So of course he's gonna say, nope, I didn't do it. I don't have, any guilt or anything, because from where he stands, people sign NDAs, they agree to it, and regardless of whether or not he coerced them or whether he offered them something, in his mind, in what I call a sociopath, in a sociopath's mind, people did what they wanted to do.
Um, this Christina Koran and the dynamic between her and Diddy, and then the dynamic of Ghislaine Maxwell and
This is
Jeffrey
crazy.
Epstein. Are these similar? Do you see them differently? How do you see the alleged roles?
Do y'all think they're similar? I think they are very similar.
I think they're very similar. And what you'll find with a lot of predators, or what you'll find with even men who are very powerful, to get other women, you have to have other women. To convince other women to come to you, you have to have someone of like mindedness to convince them that this is okay and that this is safe, because that is the trusting factor. That is the luring factor. Him going to women and saying, hey, come see me, is probably not going to be as likely as a woman who is likable going to other women. And this is how they gain the trust. They gain the trust through the woman. And that
Mm-hmm.
is how a lot of these women get coerced or get into these situations, because they're made to believe that they are safe by the likes of a woman. So this is very, very common in those type of relationships and those coercions. You have to have someone who is likable, who is warm, to get and lure other people to you if you want them to be victims.
He wasted his time paying off Cassie. It didn't do him no good.
Potentially, allegedly, Christina Koran get into that position, and how do
Not
they
a
see
bit.
themselves?
Most of the time, they started out as victims as well and found themselves becoming engulfed in the culture. And usually, they've gotten too much perks, too much money. Maybe there are things that were happening in their life that were made easier, to the point where they believe they owe the person who was asking them to do these things. There's a lot of manipulation that goes on, and depending upon how early these women got involved, they definitely could have invested so much time and could have been given a lot of things to believe that they owe Diddy for some reason, or they owe Epstein. So it starts with mental manipulation. And I truly believe that when you get in those situations, you too were a victim at first in order for you to believe that it's okay.
And how do you see the relationship between the incredible wealth and the deviancy, the sexual deviancy? Like, is it always there? Does the money cause it? Does the money exaggerate it? What is that relationship?
I think that when it comes to sexual deviancy and sexual trauma, most of the time people are very sexual. Sex is a human need, right? But then when you go overboard, or when someone has taken that from you, or someone has violated you in a way, what you learn is there is pleasure and there's some type of resolve in violating others. So that's one aspect of it. But when you add money to it, which gives you leverage, it allows other people to say, sure, we'll agree with this because you have money. Sure, we will do this because you have money. You can make our lives easier. So then it becomes a quid pro quo situation, or it becomes a situation of, convenience, in which people are saying, okay, well, you're going to make my life easier. I'll suffer so you can make my life easier. And so the deviant wins, meaning the predator wins, and then the victim believes that they are getting something out of the deal as well. But then it becomes very greedy, very grimy, and so it takes a life of its own. But they are very two separate entities, because people who portray sexual acts, or who put on sexual acts and they're in poverty, it would be a totally different outcome.
Sharonda Brown, great to have you on the program tonight. Great insight. Thank you so much. I'm sorry you had to talk about this, but you are an expert in helping us understand it to a certain extent. Thanks so much, Sharonda.
Thank you.
All right, when we come back, what does the think tank think of the Freek-Offs? Oh my goodness, did you see their expressions during that segment? I did. They're next.
Michigan mother accused of killing her husband and then fleeing the country.
The defendant was extradited from Italy. His charred remains found in a box in a blueberry patch.
The defendant could be punished with life without parole.
2 people have been convicted in this case.
Was Beverly McCallum running away from a criminal past?
Now it's up to a jury to decide.
The fugitive wife murder trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, 8/7 Central on Core TV.
Welcome back. That's the booking photo for a man named Brendan Paul. Not his best day. He was arrested in Miami on the same day that federal authorities were raiding Diddy's home on Star Island in Miami and one of his other homes in Los Angeles. Brendan Paul is an associate of Sean Diddy Combs. Let's take a look. We got a picture of him with Diddy.
Yeah.
There he is, apparently with some drugs. He's got the shades on. There he is with Diddy. I believe that's from the Miami airport, the day that he got arrested. So who is this guy? Well, he's been described as sort of a drug mule for Diddy. Now, I don't know if that's true. That's the way some people are describing him. He's facing some drug charges, and Scripps News Cleveland tonight has more on who this man is.
Booking photos of Brendan Paul snapped in a South Florida jail Monday are a departure from images shared on his public-facing Facebook profile of life in the sphere of a celebrity. Miami-Dade police arrested the 25-year-old at the Miami airport as he was about to board a private jet with Sean Diddy Combs. Officers were working with Homeland Security when they found cocaine and marijuana-laced candy in Paul's bag. Felonies in Florida. Diddy was not arrested, but the hip-hop mogul and some of his associates, including Paul, are named in this explosive lawsuit filed by Diddy's former producer Rodney Jones. Jones levels accusations of sexual assault, drug abuse, sex trafficking, and other crimes.
Wow.
Jones and Paul worked on Diddy's most recent album, which Paul celebrated on social media in September. Court documents include some of those social media photos of Paul and Diddy together. The lawsuit labels Paul as a mule who acquires and distributes drugs and guns. It also says he provided cash payments to sex workers on Diddy's behalf. And one witness described seeing Paul and others spiking champagne bottles with ecstasy.
What?
In the US
I don't know.
Jones allegedly
Thanks for joining, Infinity.
trafficking venture, and his associates, including Paul, were aiding and abetting it. Paul had graduated from Hawkins School and then briefly attended Syracuse University, where he played basketball. His bio there listed his hometown as Shaker Heights and said he was majoring in sports management. We visited the Chagrin Falls address listed as Paul's current home and arrest records. No one answered the door, but someone yelled no comment through a window. We also reached out to Paul's attorney, who simply said, quote, "We do not plan on trying this case in the media. All issues will be dealt with in the court." The same day Paul was arrested, Homeland Security raided and took evidence from Diddy's Miami and Beverly Hills homes. He has denied Jones's allegations. Northeast Ohio-based Collaborative to End Human Trafficking, we time human trafficking is in the news, it is a reminder that victims are exploited every day. It can happen to anyone, from anywhere. The connection to Northeast Ohio and these specific allegations remind us that it happens here too. What's important to focus on is that human trafficking is solvable. Right now, Paul is scheduled to appear on those criminal charges in Miami in late April. In civil court, Jones is asking for at least $30 million in damages against Diddy and all of his associates. In Cleveland, Kevin Ross, News 5.
So the question is, will the feds now try to flip the mule? Let's bring in our think tank, see what they had to say about all that. Joining us tonight in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney Eklund Mercy. Joining us in Phoenix, Arizona, the attorney who represented that woman. You know her, but I'm not going to say her name. Kirk Nermy is with us. And in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Chapel Hill, North Carolina. President of the West Coast Trial Lawyers and former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani. Are the West Coast lawyers now joining the ACC also? Oh my goodness. Anyway, all right. Eklund, I'm going to begin with you. Do you want to start with the freak-offs or flipping the mule?
Oh my God. This is bad. This is bad.
Very.
Homeland Security. I mean, they investigate terrorism, but I do believe that it's not going to be as easy as people may think. I think that since the settlement with Cassie, I think Diddy probably has been prepared for this. I think that it's going to be a lot of lawyering. It's not going to be easy. It's like an X-rated version of Power. This is so intriguing. I didn't know these things happen.
That's good that you didn't know this was happening.
Oh, Infinity, you was talking about the movie from the Matrix.
That's a good thing.
But he is like a pillar in like hip hop community in the hip hop spaces.
This is so shocking.
This is major. I think this affects countless careers, countless families. The fact that everything is relevant. Everything is relevant. So this is going to shake up the music industry like nothing else has done.
It really is.
Kirk Nermy, I want to ask you, what criminal activity, if any, did you hear in the description of the sex parties that I went through tonight and the freak-offs, other than the underage? Like the underage, that's crystal clear. But are there other crimes taking place there that would be subject to this federal investigation, or do you think it's a focus on underage sex workers or underage women, underage boys that may be trafficked into having sex with adults in different, not sex, but being abused by adults in different places?
Well, I think the underage children are certainly, and obviously rightly so, going to be a big part of it, Vinny. But when you talk about the laundry list, if you look at these civil complaints, the laundry list is long. We don't have time enough tonight to consider all the possible crimes. We have possession of drugs, narcotics. We have sexual assaults. These are state crimes, right? We have, again, perhaps if there were videos taken of these events, as some of the civil complaints allege, then you have possession of perhaps photographs of underage children, child pornography. You have the possession of drugs. You have the importing of sex workers, which is a federal violation. So you've got a lot there, Vinny, that again, this onion is going to be peeled. If some of the complaints are true, the civil complaints, a lot of this might be on video. I'm sure those agents are pouring through the video now. And of course, as your question to Eklund implied, I bet Mr. Paul knows a lot about these things. Mr. Paul is 25 years old, and he's going to be looking to save his skin. And I bet he's going to have a lot to say to authorities. He's going to sing them a nice song.
Nima Rahmani, what are the feds doing right now? You're a former federal prosecutor. They executed these 2 raids. They arrested this man, Brendan Paul. What are they doing, and how do they figure out if they've got a case here?
Oh, they already have a case, Vinny. The Southern District of New York doesn't execute multiple search warrants at the same time, get a federal judge to sign off on it unless they have a case. They're going to flip the drug mill, the alleged drug mill. They've already talked to the witnesses. And Vinny, I'm telling you, I might be in the East Coast now. This happened a mile or two from my house. Okay, that's how close I am to Diddy. My house isn't as big, but this was big news in LA. And I know Diddy's lawyer, Aaron Dyer. We used to work together. So, and Kirk nailed it. I mean, looking at sex trafficking, production of child pornography, these are mandatory minimum sentences, 10 or 15-year sentences. So, you know how the feds work. They already got those witnesses lined up, and I'm telling you, it's just a matter of days before an indictment is unsealed and Diddy and others are arrested, probably in a sweeping RICO indictment that names all these as predicate acts.
So do you think there's potentially an indictment already?
There potentially is an indictment that hasn't been unsealed. What agents are doing right now is combing through those records. You got your search warrant, that's been executed, it's going to be returned, and there's going to be an arrest warrant. So it doesn't matter if it's he's under indictment now. He will be under indictment very soon, Vinny. I think they already have the evidence that they need. They're just trying to wrap it up nicely with that digital footprint, hoping to find that those videos that Cassie and the other civil plaintiffs have alleged. And how incredibly stupid was Diddy not to settle that case before it went public? They were talking about the difference between $10 and $30 million, which for him was nothing. But she was the catalyst to bring this whole empire down.
Michael and Mercy, we only have about 20 seconds here, but do you see a scenario where he ends up like R. Kelly ended up, where he goes away and we just don't hear from him anymore?
He will not go against the dying of the light. He is going to fight, and I think that it's going to be a test to see if corruption is real, because I think that he has a lot of information on some pretty powerful people. So we're going to see if things stick. We're going to see how much pull did Diddy really have.
All right, great news. Think Tank with us the rest of the hour. Up next.
The Free Karen Reed protesters have been showing up to court every time there's a hearing for accused cop killer Karen Reed. Now, the DA wants the judge to restrict what they can wear when the trial starts.
Welcome back. If you remember last night on this program, we talked about how Alec Murdaugh had failed a polygraph, and it was going to perhaps cause a huge problem with his federal plea deal, because he needed to be honest and cooperate with federal investigators. But they're claiming he failed the polygraph and was lying about some of the crimes, and they are very concerned because there's $6 million that's unaccounted for. This would put in jeopardy his plea deal and perhaps put him in federal prison for so long that even if he got his murder conviction overturned, he would never, ever, 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 ever have the chance to see the light of day. Well, tonight the defense has struck back, and they said that this examiner was asking a lot of odd questions and talking about that he had just administered a lie detector on famed killer Urine Vandersloot. So they're saying that this guy gave an unfair test, and the questions were all over the place. They didn't make sense, and he was talking about Urine Vandersloot. So we'll see what the judge does with it. It's all happening on Monday. In the meantime, it's time to go on the docket.
Okay, so
The first statement of its kind in my dozen years as Norfolk District Attorney.
okay, y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. I wanted to see what was going on with the Puffy case. Y'all please like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification button so you be notified when I'm dropping new videos. Bye, babes.